Ah, gent, what is going on? It is like 5 in the morning. Why are you still up? I'm just trying to figure out the timeline of the digital circus. Doesn't really add up.
Timelines? What is this, Five Nights at Freddy's? We don't really need a timeline, we just need a story.
Well, we kinda do need a timeline in order to make sense of the story. After all, these graphics and animations look like they belong in the 1990s. But VR technology didn't become really popular until 2010, moving forward. Also, Kane's AI is way more advanced than anything the 90s have been able to produce. But the style of the setting, characters, and even the graphics would suggest 90s technology. So I'm just trying to figure out, what generation is this game in?
So, maybe it's a VR headset that's based off of 90s aesthetic technology. You know how millennials have this uncharacteristic desire to live in the 90s and 80s.
I don't know, that feels like assumptions.
You could always roll the dice and make an intelligence check.
Yeah, wouldn't it be funny if it was just that easy? Decipher, what are you doing here?
You two have been playing this game for like 2 weeks, so I thought I'd join.
We aren't having fun! We're trapped in here!
We really need to re-roll your intelligence. Regardless, this is The Amazing Digital Circus, Episode 3.
The episode begins with Pomni and the circus gang holding their breaths. Apparently, when you hold your breath in the digital plane, different things happen, and they're experimenting to see how far Pomni's body can take.
Well, since death really isn't a factor, they can pretty much get away with anything they want. And cool stuff happens whenever they hold their breaths. Like Kinger glows, Ragatha's hair stands up, and Zubul turns straight.
But Jack of all shacks, Jack doesn't reveal what happens when he holds his breath.
What do you, the viewers, think it is?
Is Jax aware?
No, he's not. He's just doing a bit.
Well, soon enough, Kane shows up to put him on another grand adventure. And this one is going to be a mystery one, with ghosts, ghouls, and goblins spookiness, as they explore a haunted house in a Halloween-themed episode. But one thing that he notices that Zubul is once again gone. Not participating. Again. Much to his dismay, because he made it specifically for them.
What?
Okay. I'm still deciding which one is my favorite character, but Kane and Bubble are definitely my favorite duo.
Well, Pomni does ask Kane if any of the NPCs are going to come alive this time, and Kane says, I don't know. Anyway, here's the portal. Go through it. Get spooked. And spooked they do get. As while most of them are pretty okay, Ragatha confronts Pomni as Pomni says that she doesn't really do so well with jump scares and horror. Well, after Jack bullies her for a bit, we then get our first encounter with a ghost, and Pomni overly reacts. But turns out to be a cute little guy. And Pomni can't get her cartoon eyes back in her head.
The baby ghost explains that they have 2 directions they can go. They can either go through the pacifist door or the really scary mature door. And the choice is up to them. But before any more information can be given, Jack sucks the ghost into a vacuum.
But when things get confusing about which door is which, they test it out by Jax throwing Gangle's mask through the scary door. Kinger decides to go get it and jumps in, pulling Pomni along into the scary door.
Poor Pomni, we hardly knew you.
Yeah, Kinger gets a pass for dragging Pomni because, he's insane. But Jax definitely deserves a deck into the face for that one. And how is he a fan favorite character?
Because it doesn't matter what universe or what's timeline, everyone loves a bad boy. We later cut back to Kane, who is currently looking for Zubuls. But when he can't find them, he cheats and teleports them to his location. And then he wants to discuss why Zubul doesn't want to go on any of his fantastic adventures. Zubul doesn't want to talk, but Kane sets up a whole therapy session for him, just to try to get him to speak. Apparently they did have this conversation before, but rather Kane either selectively forgets it, or something else. Either way, Kane doesn't really seem that interested in Zubal's feelings.
We later cut back to Kinger and Pomni as they are on the scary level. Pomni immediately starts freaking because, why wouldn't she? This is some pretty fucked up imagery. What the hell, Kane? Kinger turns on a recording of a man describing how he's hunting a monster and continuously hunting it, which drove him insane.
But he did manage to kill it and behead it. But Pomni's not interested in that. She's more interested in finding a way out. And all exits lead to a brick wall. Except for one, a small elevator shaft, but they need a key. So they go around trying to find the key. Pomni is more interested in the key, while Kinger is still playing more recordings. And it does give a little bit of lore placement of don't take your eyes off the head because the creature is not dead.
Wow, this is some rather inconvenient lore placement.
As a fellow game master, I 100% approve the placement of that lore!
For you must punish your players for their hubris!
Well, Pomni does find the key,
but then the lights turn out. We get a really actually kind of funny skirmish between Kinger and Pomni in the dark, with some 2D animation thrown in to boot. It's kind of glad to see that 2D animation still has a place on YouTube. But the silliness of the scene wears off when the giant head from earlier just pops up, and oh my god, this is genuine nightmare fuel.
Pomni immediately runs to the exit, trying to get the key into the lock so they can get out of there, as Kinger is forced to confront the beast and, for some reason, thinks it's a beautiful woman?
Cut him some slack. His brain don't work so well. So Pomni grabs him and drags him into the elevator, and as soon as they think they're done, they descend further into the manor.
We later cut back to Kane and Zubul and...
Do not use my adventures to torture my guests! Any torment I inflict is 100% accidental, like any good war criminal!
Oh, like a good war criminal.
Oh, what is up with the comedy in this episode? They were not this funny the first two. So, Kane feels insulted that Zubul thinks so little of his games and his adventures, but Zubul says that's not the issue. And then he keeps persisting that them tell him the issue, and Zubul finally breaks down. Zubul admits it's because a lot of it is due to her body. Or rather, how weird it is. They don't like their body. It appears that Zubul is suffering from a form of, what's it called? Body dysphoria? It's that one disease that makes you not like your own body and how it looks. Which, in fairness, yeah, I could definitely see why they would have that. But that's when Kane remembers, oh, now I remember why I don't know what the problem is, because I already solved it. As he teleports a box filled with Zubul parts, and says there, if you don't like your body, you can switch it out with a different piece. Problem solved. Unfortunately, this type of problem isn't so simple to solve.
But then Kane obviously persists on Zubul's participating in the adventures again. But this is when Zubul tells him straight to his face, no one actually likes his adventures. Ragatha does it because she's nice, Jax just wants to torture NPCs, Pomni feels traumatized, Gangle is, well, always depressed, and of course, Zubul just flat out refuses most of the time. Oh, and Kinga is straight up insane. The only reason that any of them do it is because there's nothing else to do. And if they had the choice, they choose not to. And Kane takes this to heart, saying, well, that can't possibly be the case, because...
Art! It's all I exist to do, all I'm good at. And, what you're saying could imply that I'm bad at the only thing I'm good at, and that That'd be... who's there?
Huh. Zooble? Honey? Sweetie? Baby? Sugar pie? Cutie patootie? I know you don't particularly like going on the adventures, but for the sake of stability, could you maybe go on the adventure so that freaking Kane doesn't break down and destroy the entire game with you and everybody else in it? We cut back to Pomni and Kinger as they descend into another layer of the manor. It looks like a wine cellar, where they see the corpse of the man who presumably left all the tapes. They play the tape that's down there, and it describes how he went insane and murdered his wife and theoretical child. Kind of odd that he has to specify that, but whatever. And the only thing he has left is to kill the beast. And with the beast's head and its body animated, all he has left is, well, whatever bullets he has left in his shotgun. So they decide to take it.
Please don't come alive.
Okay, I won't.
Okay. Now I know for certain that's a spot type of humor. Come on. This is only so much of the episode left. Is this supposed to be the horror episode? I've been making me nauseous just every single other second of this. So an uncharacteristically sane Kinger takes the shotgun and readies himself for the inevitable monster to arrive. But unfortunately, they get double-teamed by not only the monster's body, but also the monster's head. With only 2 shots in the shotgun, he just completely channels his inner Doomslayer and just wham, bam, pow! 2 double headshots. And one of them doesn't even have a head, so that's impressive.
Unfortunately for them, all of this was a convoluted plan by the tape guy, who says that this actually was one of God's angels, and the punishment for hurting one of God's angels is a direct ticket to hell. And so, their bodies will be served by the souls of the damned, and they should be prepared to take their final breath.
We later cut back to Ragatha, Gangle, and Jax as they're having a splendid time with the actual wife of the ghost that Pomni is fighting currently. And honestly, it's quite a delightful little evening. Except for Jax. There's no horror in it whatsoever.
Honestly, all this does is stoke my theory that this was entirely built to be a kid's game.
Well, as they do try to leave, they are congratulated by a AI prompt, but are told they can't exit until Pomni and Kinger are done. Which will be difficult for them because they are literally stuck in hell.
Pomni ends up freaking out because, again, trapped in hell, and this entire experience has been nothing short of a nightmare. It's actually Kinger who's the one who calms her down, and tells her everything's going to be okay. They see a hallway with lots of little speckling lights, which I can only assume are dead souls. Kinger throws his eyeball, because that's a thing, and he sees down that there's a stairwell that'll take them out of hell. Pomni just decides to just run and gun it, which is always the worst strategy in this kind of situation, as the souls of the damned start possessing her body, and we get a demon version of our little clown jester. Kinger pulls her out of the hallway, and...
How's your wife, Kinger?
Boo! 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 No bringing undead wives!
Boo on you, good sirs! Boo!
I know you're residents of hell, but still,
I don't care what the argument is, you don't go that low below the belt. Boo!
So, we're all just going to sit here and just ignore the fact that Kane's NPC obviously influenced Pomni's brain when we're told that he can't do that?
After Pomni recovers her senses, she of course breaks down once again. This time, truly believing that this entire time, all Kane wants is to make her suffer.
Well, not specifically Kane, she does say him, but she doesn't specify who, we can only assume Kane. Though, keep in mind, this entire adventure was made for Zooble, not Pomni. Pomni was supposed to take the pacifist route. It's actually here Kinger tells her to calm down, let's just sit by, and catch our breath while nothing is attacking us. And this is when Pomni asks the question, how is it that he seems so much more sane at this point in time? And this is where we get Kinger's backstory. Yeah, apparently he has a better time remembering events in the dark, specifically the dark. And we can confirm that this is the case as we look back, and every time Kinger has had some semblance of sanity, it's when he was engulfed in some kind of darkness, be it a bucket on his head or other. And it's a pretty sad reason, as apparently him and his wife entered the digital circus. And his last memory he has of his wife is when she abstracted. And for some unseen events, they entered into his weird pillow fort, where the darkness kind of soothed her, to keep her tame long enough for him to say his last goodbyes before Kane put her in the basement. Apparently, being in the dark is his form of therapy to help him remember that one very tragic memory. It's not a pleasant one, but it's one he has control over. He also gives Pomni some pretty good advice, that the worst thing you could do in this world is to make somebody feel like they're unwanted, because you never know when you're going to lose the ones you love. Fans are eating good with the lore this episode. We also learn that Kinger studied for 7 years in computer science. Obviously, it doesn't take a genius to put 2 and 2 together to realize that Kinger may have been one of the developers of the game. But let's go a little deeper, shall we? I find it quite coincidental that the episode where we finally get some screen time with Kane, actual screen time to get to know his personality, is the same episode where we get all these lore drops with Kinger. I'm starting to believe that there's some kind of connection between the two, and that's more than just a game dev. For starters, both characters seem to have a connection to when it comes to the dark, with Kinger only being able to think properly in the dark. Meanwhile, Kane seems to have a flirtatious relationship with the moon. Both characters also this episode try to help other players try to get through their emotional baggage. But while King is able to understand Pomni on an emotional level, Kane is unable to process what Zoombles is going through, and tries to fix the problem the most logical computer AI way possible. The evidence is circumstantial at best, and I'm definitely assuming a lot. But I feel as though Kane's AI sentience must have come from somewhere. But now I'm thinking it came from someone, or at least half of his sentience. He can problem solve, but he can't develop emotional connections.
Well, even with such a beautiful scene, we still have the situation of Kinger and Pomni being trapped in literally hell. But Kinger has a theory. The clue that the man in the voice box said that their final breath would be their last. So, possibly the clue to getting out of here is simply don't breathe. Hold your breath while walking through the corridor. Pomni doesn't like that, but Kinger encourages her to just not think about it, and so the two of them try it. They hold their breath and walk through the corridor. Pomni, of course, starts turning blue as Kinger starts glowing a golden light, which literally makes it look like an angel is escorting Pomni out of hell. And so, with the challenge accomplished, they manage to make it to the door and manage to make it up and rejoin the others.
The others are thrilled to see them again, as Kinger unfortunately reverts to his insane, memory-loss self. But that's okay, because Pomni gains a new appreciation for all of Rakatha's efforts to being her friend. But then they remember they forgot Gango's comedy mask in the basement. Whoopsie!
We then come back to Kane and Zubul, as Zubul has, funny enough, become Kane's therapist. But they stop the therapy sessions in order to greet all of the players back into their home. And Kinger returns to his little pillow fort, now with a much darker meaning behind it. And while Jax is still being a jerk, Pomni has gained a newfound respect for not only Kinger, but everybody else trapped in the circus. And with that, the episode ends. And that was the Amazing Digital Circus Episode 3, and wow, I did not expect such a lore-heavy episode from a Halloween special.
It's always rather nice that the show takes off the mask of cute, cuddly, friendly characters and reveals the true horror that is the Amazing Digital Circus's themes.
But while we all R.I.P. Kinger's wife, I gotta ask, why did the NPCs bring up Kinger's wife to begin with?
And as much as I hate to admit it, this might be the beginning of Kane's breakdown. Therapy is often used as a vehicle to reveal to us the truths that we've been burying deep inside. For instance, Zubul's hidden truth is that them has body dysmorphia, or I still don't know what that's called, I need to look it up. They hate how they look. But I feel as though Kane's situation could potentially be a lot more dire, as the one thing he's programmed to do, he sucks at doing, and nobody likes his adventures. But unlike Zubul's and the others, he doesn't have the emotional capacity to handle such a revelation. I can only imagine that things are going to get much harder for everybody here on out.
Seeing how he's behaving, I can only assume denial before the inevitable slap of truth.
I can understand a little bit of what Kane's going through. There's no fun being a DM if all of your players are telling you you suck at being a DM. Of course, there's another theory that I'm working on currently involving Kane and the rest of them, but I'm gonna have to put that one on the back burner.
And with that, we'll just go ahead and conclude today's episode. So with that, I'm Cartoon Gent.
I'm Riash.
I'm Decipher!
And this has been Gentleman's Chats. And we will see you all next time.
If there really wasn't an exit to the digital circus, then why was the exit door that Pomni saw in the episode 1 orange, but inside the circus it was red?